Today we're going to read a story called Snowflake Bentley. And this is a story that was written by Jacqueline Briggs Martin and illustrated by Mary Azarian. And this story is about this man, Wilson Bentley. Wilson Bentley grew up on a farm and grew up to be a farmer in Vermont. But he also is a scientist that's known all over the world for his work with snowflakes. He discovered by taking pictures and looking under a microscope that snowflakes are all different. What I want us to think about while we read our story are the things inside of us that make us good scientists. This can be imagination, bravery, curiosity, and determination. So we're going to talk about that after we read our story today. So let's begin. Oopsie. Okie dokie. So it begins. In the days when farmers worked with ox and sled and cut the dark with lantern light, and this is a lantern, it's a lamp with a candle in it, there lived a boy who loved snow more than anything else in the world. Willie Bentley's happiest days were snowstorm days. He watched snowflakes fall on his mittens, on the dried grass of Vermont farm fields, on the dark metal handle of the barn door. He said snow is as beautiful as butterflies or apple blossoms. Those are flowers from apple trees. He could net butterflies and show them to his older brother, Charlie. He could pick apple blossoms and take them to his mother. But he could not share snowflakes because he could not save them. He couldn't keep them. When his mother gave him an old microscope, he used it to look at flowers, raindrops, and blades of grass. A microscope is a tool that scientists use, and it has two eyepieces, and you can put very small things under the eyepieces, and it magnifies that thing so that you can see it larger. So you can take something very small, and then it looks very large in the microscope so that you can really get a good look at it. When his mother gave him an old microscope, let's see. Okay, he used it to look at flowers, raindrops, those are pretty small, and blades of grass. Best of all, he used it to look at snow. While other children built forts and pelted snowballs at roosting crows, Willie, he was catching single snowflakes day after stormy day. He studied the icy crystals. Their intricate patterns were even more beautiful than he had imagined. And here's some of the patterns here and here. And we have more on this side. And intricate means that they're very detailed. He expected to find whole flakes that were the same, that were copies of each other, but he never did. Willie decided he must find a way to save snowflakes so others could see their wonderful designs. For 3 winters, he tried drawing snow crystals. They always melted before he could finish, though. When he was 16, Willie read of a camera with its own microscope. If I had that camera, I could photograph snowflakes, he told his mother. Willie's mother knew he would not be happy until he could share what he had seen. Fussing with snow is just foolishness, his father said. Still, he loved his son. When Willie was 17, his parents spent their savings and they bought the camera. It was taller than a newborn calf and cost as much as his father's herd of 10 cows. That's a lot of money. Willie was sure it was the best of all cameras. And you can see the camera here. It has a stand. This is a rather large camera because we need to remember this book is about a man who lived about 100 years ago. And so these cameras, the technology then is always much larger than the camera that you use today. So here's the camera and here's the microscope. So now instead of his eye looking through the microscope, he'll have the camera's eye looking through the microscope. Willie was sure it was the best of all the cameras. Even so, his first pictures were failures, no better than shadows. Yet he would not quit. Mistake by mistake, snowflake by snowflake, Willie worked through every storm. Winter ended, the snow melted, and he had no good pictures. He waited, though, for another season of snow. I think this is showing me that Willie can really stick with this. He really wants to do this, and he's not going to give up. And one day in the second winter, he tried a new experiment, and it worked. An experiment is a new test. Willie had figured out how to photograph snowflakes. Now everyone can see the great beauty in a tiny crystal, he said. But in those days, no one cared. Neighbors laughed at the idea of photographing snow. Snow in Vermont is as common as dirt, they said. We don't need pictures. Willie, though, he said the photographs would be his gift to the world. I wonder why Willie, he didn't change his mind, even though his neighbors said that taking the photographs was unnecessary. That's interesting. While other farmers sat by the fire or rode to town with horse and sleigh, Willie studied snowstorms. He stood at the shed door and held out a black tray to catch the flakes. Oh, and here he is. He's looking through his camera, and it looks like this. He's going to turn it, and maybe that moves the angle of the tray where the snowflake is sitting. Let's see. When he found only jumbled broken crystals, he brushed the tray clean with a turkey feather, and he held it out again. He waited hours for just the right crystal and didn't notice the cold. If the shed were warm, the snow would melt. If he breathed on the black tray, the snow would melt. If he twitched a muscle as he held the snow crystal on the long wooden pick, the snowflake would break. He had to work fast, or the snowflake would evaporate. What do we think that word evaporate means? Can we use our clues in the book? If he breathed on the black tray, the snow would melt. Our breath is hot, and the snowflake is cold. If the shed were warm, the snow would melt. The shed's warm, the snow's cold. So that tells me that if you get something cold like a snowflake, if you get it too hot, it's going to change. It's going to change and kind of move into the air and disappear. So that must be what evaporate is. He had to work fast or the snowflake would evaporate before he could slide it into place and take its picture. Some winters he was only able to make a few dozen good pictures. Remember, dozen is a word for group of 12. Some winters he made hundreds. Willie so loved the beauty of nature. He took pictures in all seasons. In the summer, his nieces and nephews rubbed coat hangers with sticky pitch from spruce trees. And pitch is another word from sap, that ooze that comes out of trees. So let's see. In the summer, his nieces and nephews rubbed coat hangers with the sticky pitch from the spruce trees. Then Willie could use them to pick up spider webs jeweled with water drops and take their pictures. On fall nights, he would gently tie a grasshopper to a flower so he could find it in the morning and photograph the dew-covered insect. He must have been a very gentle person. But his snow crystal pictures were always his favorites. He gave copies away or sold them for a few cents. He made special pictures as gifts for birthdays. He held evening slideshows on the lawns of his friends. Children and adults sat on the grass and watched while Willie projected his slides onto a sheet hung over a clothesline. So you can see this is another piece of technology, and these black trays each have one photograph on them, and what he would do is slide that into the projector, and there is a light bulb back here, and that shines through the tray with the picture out onto the white sheet. Sometimes people do that on their walls too, and that projects the image.